Okay, today we are going to be looking at more JavaScript, and we're going to be looking at how to use variables and operators to do arithmetic. So variables are containers for storing data values. So on the first line here, I've got variable A, and it's defined and assigned. It's storing the value of 2. And then we've got variable B, defined and assigned, storing the value of 3. And then variable Z is defined and stores the value of, in this case right now, 5, because A was 2 and B was 3. So first thing we're going to talk about is identifiers. All JavaScript variables must be identified with unique names. So your identifier is just like the name of the variable. Okay, so identifiers can be short, like the last example where you had A, B, or C, or you can be more descriptive names like you see below. The thing to note is that capitalization does matter. Soda is not the same as soda with a capital S. Also, names contain letters, digits, underscores, and dollar signs, but they must begin with a letter, a dollar sign, or an underscore. You cannot begin a name with a number. You cannot use reserved words for variables, i.e. JavaScript variable. There's a whole list of reserved words. You can look them up online. But you can't use like function, for example, as a reserved word. You can't use function for a variable. Okay. So down below we see different things. So we've got this variable for soda, burger, and lunch. Okay, and then lunch would be having the value of 8 right now because 2 plus 6 is 8. Some other things. In 2015, let and const were added as ways to declare a variable. So instead of using var, you could use let or const. Let allows a programmer, constants first. Const allows a programmer to define a variable that cannot be reassigned. So it's a constant. Okay, it's always the number that you assign it to be the first time. And then let allows a programmer to define a variable with a restricted scope. So maybe it's only going to be a number somewhere between 1 and 10. Okay. Now, const and let are not supported in older browsers, so you have to be careful when using them. In this class, we will most often use var for our variables, but we should understand and know the other two exist, and if we see them written in a program somewhere else, we should be able to understand what's happening. So the assignment operator, the equal sign is an assignment operator. It does not mean equal to. It's different from algebra. In algebra, you can't say x equals x plus 2. It doesn't make sense. You subtract 2 from the other side, now you've got x minus 2 equals x. X is supposed to equal x, okay? But in JavaScript, that symbol does not mean equal to, it means it's assigned. So in JavaScript, x is assigned to the value of x plus 5, meaning it calculates x plus 5 and puts the result into x. The result ends up being that x is incremented, or it goes up by 5. If you want something to be equal in JavaScript, you use 2 of what we typically call the equal sign. Numbers. Numbers are written without quotes. If you put a number in quotes, it's going to be treated as a text string. So if you really want to, like, you're naming a road and you're like Route 897. Well, if you want that to come up like a string, then you'd have to put it in quotes. But most of the time, our numbers we want to be numbers, so make sure you do not use quotes. Strings are text values, like I put my name there, Mrs. Cosi. Strings are written inside double or single quotes. Also, there are other types of data in JavaScript as well, but we are going to start with just looking at numbers and strings. Alright, so down below here, the second line of code here, it is declaring the variable first name, but there's no value, so at this point the value is undefined. Then down here, we've just gone ahead and assigned the value of Gretchen to first name. Now, you don't have to do it on 2 separate lines. You can declare the variable and assign it all in one line. So you can say the variable first name is assigned to the value of Gretchen. It is okay to declare a variable and not define it like we did up here. Okay? Sometimes the value will need to be calculated, or it may be something that's provided later by the user. You can declare multiple variables in one statement. Okay, so we don't have to have var first name Gretchen, var middle name Elizabeth. We can just do all in one statement. Var first name Gretchen, middle name Elizabeth, last name Cosi, and we just separate them by commas. If you look down here, we could also put it on separate lines. Okay, so if it gets long, it's okay. You can still only have var written down once and then hit enter because white space is ignored in JavaScript. So arithmetic operators. So the plus sign is addition, the minus is subtraction, then we've got the little asterisk, which means multiplication. Two asterisks are exponentation. The slash is division. Then we've got a percent or the modulus, division, remainder. So that means, like, if you divide 5 by 3, what's the remainder? The remainder is 2, so it would give you 2. And then plus plus is increment, and minus minus is decrement. And we're going to check out a couple examples from lesson 4. So let's go ahead and look at those. So I want to scroll up. Alright. So our first example here, it's a paragraph that's going to change to be the addition of two variables. Okay? So we're going to add two variables. So I've got variable A declared and assigned a value of 2. Variable B declared and assigned the value of 3. And then we've got a function down here that's going to add. We call it the add function. Okay? And we're going to add A plus B, and again, no quotes because we want them to be treated as numbers. And then we're saying that we're going to change the inner HTML of example 1, which is this paragraph, to be whatever the value is, which should be 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay? And then we'll go down and look at this next one. We've got increment. This paragraph is going to change to show a variable that has an initial value of 5 and increments with 3 on 3. Okay, so the first value we're going to see is 8. Okay, and then it's incrementing by 3. So let's look at the code a little bit. So first we defined variable C, declared it and assigned it the value of 5. D was declared and assigned the value of 3. And then we just have C plus equals D. So we're starting with C, 5, and then we're going to keep adding every time we click 3 to it. Alright. We're going to go back to our notes here. We'll get to the other ones. Alright. Arithmetic, order of operations, precedence. So order of operations is still followed in JavaScript. So if you write 10 plus 5 times 2, you are going to get 20 because it's going to do the multiplication of 5 times 2 first. Okay, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Alright, multiplication comes before addition. Alright. So to be careful, if you want to do 10 plus 5 and get 15 and then multiply by 2 and get 30, you need to use parentheses. Assignment operators. Okay. So we've got this plus equals, which we just kind of showed the example ahead of time, but anyways, that means the same as x is equal to x plus y. And then minus equals x is equal to x minus y. And then we got the multiplication, so you're multiplying the two, x equals x times y, and then division, x equals x divided by y, and then the modulus, that means we're going to find the remainder, okay, and then exponentation, so we're going to take x to the y power. So string operators, you can do some things with strings, you can add them together, we call it concatenating them, because we just put them next to each other. So when we had those 3 variables, okay, or this time I only have 2, alright, defined and assigned values, first name is Gretchen, last name is Kosi, and then just name is going to be when we concatenate the two. So we have the first name plus the last name, but I put a little extra spot in here with a space so that I have a space between my first and last names. Alright, let's go ahead and look back at example 4 for some of those other examples here. Alright. So we can increment by 1 using plus plus. Alright, so we're starting with 5 and we're going up by 1. There we go. Okay, so we got 6. Alright, and then the modulus. Okay, so this is where we're going to find a remainder. So we have 8 and then modulus 3, which means 8 divided, what's the remainder of 8 divided by 3? Okay, so you can divide 8 by 3 twice and you'd have 6, but then you have 2 left over, so we should get 2 left over. There it is. decrementing, so you can make things go down. So here we're just going to make the variable g, we're going to start with 10, and we're just going to go down by 1 each time. Just want to decrement by 1. And then strings, again, you can add or concatenate strings together using the plus symbol. Alright, so today, some more things. Careful, adding strings and numbers. If you're adding two numbers, you get a number. Okay, if you add a string and a number, you get a string. So if you've got here, we're going to get 4, and then here we're going to get 32. Okay, because it's a string, so it makes it a string. Here we're going to get Gretchen 2. Okay, now if you have like 2 plus 2 plus Gretchen, you'll get 4 Gretchen, because it sees the numbers first and it adds them, and then it makes it then it's like, oh, it's a string, and then it puts it together. So to be careful when you are mixing strings and numbers together. More about strings. You can use the length property to find the length of a string. So in this script right here, we've got the alphabet. The variable text is equal to the alphabet, and then we're going to say document.getElementById by ID example 1. So example 1's inner HTML, so whatever element has example 1 for their ID, their HTML is going to be text.length. That's our variable. .length is just going to say how long it is, which is 26 because it's the alphabet. Okay, so now it's just going to show up 26. If you want to use quotes in a string, okay, or any other special characters, you need to use the escape character so that it doesn't think you're trying to do some JavaScript coding, so it recognizes the quote as part of the string. Okay, so this would not work. Okay, down here you need the escape character and then the quote, so now it's like, oh, that's a string. Okay, this is not code right here. This is not code right here. That's what it's saying. Okay, so to be a little careful if you want to put special characters in your strings. Comparison operators, we've got equal to. This is equal value and type. This is not equal value, or not equal type. Greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and ternary. This allows you to assign a value if a condition is true and another if it's false. So, you know, if something is true, then it's going to be at the value of 3, and if it's false, it has the value of 2. Okay, so you can use that. And then logical operators, ampersand, ampersand, logical and then we've got logical or and logical not. The type attributes, so you could use type of, and it'll tell you what type of variable it is. Again, we've been talking about strings and numbers, but there are some others. Instance of returns true if an object is an instance of an object type. Alright, so today you are going to work on JavaScript, variables, operators, and arithmetic on Schoology. There's 11 questions worth a total of 21 points because some questions have more points. But after you actually take it, when it goes into the grade book, it will take that percent and turn it into a grade out of 5. So you can go ahead and get started on that.